So, remember last time where I didn't listen to my audience so I could fight the easiest boss I had available? Well, it looks like I should have just listened to them in the first place because Djimmi is basically a joke. Oops.
It's on!
The most vital thing to know about his first phase is that he only does the skull attack twice per attempt, and then never does it again. This is important because Djimmi's hitbox extends behind him whenever he does this attack for some reason, so without shrinking we take damage to this weird hitbox. But after he's done the skull attack twice, we're safe to just stay behind Djimmi to hit him since Whetstone does in fact hit in a circle around Mugman. This just leaves 3 possible attacks that Djimmi can use in this phase. Once he picks one, he'll only use it until the phase is over from you beating it or dying. Jewels are the worst attack since they prevent us from hitting Djimmi while we dodge them and can hit us too quickly to dodge consistently, so I would always reset when seeing them. Cats are okay, but they will home onto us while behind the boss and the sarcophagus opening can block our path. Eventually I found that it's most efficient to just reset for swords since they take a long time to launch towards us and can easily be dodged, making them go off screen unlike the constant homing of the cats. This allows us to spam Whetstone since, like with Hilda, hitting Whetstone in a plane level dramatically reduces its cooldown in comparison to missing it. This is great for the phase transition too, since damage done here carries over to Djimmi's sarcophagus phase. And it's about to be necessary, since the pillar phase requires us to break the ones with Djimmi's face on them to get through without taking damage. A lot of people asked how I was going to do this phase specifically. Just hit them twice. I guess people thought they had more health or something, I don't know. The phase still isn't easy since we have to avoid the saws as usual, which sometimes takes long enough without shrinking to force us to ram into the pillar thanks to this phase being an auto-scroller. As I improved, this became more uncommon to the point that I would try to hit both pillars with the face on them as long as I was ahead of the auto-scroll enough, since damage here also carries over to the sarcophagus phase, which is by far the worst one Whetstone-Only, and the only reason I consider this fight at all challenging. The problem is, this phase just isn't designed for melee combat. I know, shocking. Djimmi's attack is to launch his eyes in an up and down pattern which damages the player. But if you're the perfect distance from Djimmi, they won't hit you when just being launched, so we're saved, right? Not quite. He also summons mummies from the sarcophagus, and we don't have time to dodge them if they're summoned right in front of us. I tried for potential G-spots like going behind the sarcophagus, and you can actually hit Djimmi from the side, but like phase 1, his attack expands his hitbox behind him, resulting in us taking damage. Funnily enough, shrinking would prevent us from getting hit here too. Oh well. Without cheesing this phase, it's going to be very difficult to safely attack due to the overlap of Djimmi's attack and summons. The mummies take 2 hits to kill, which is already bad since they move so fast, but I also have to be mindful of where the eyes are at the same time. The middle of the screen is the most dangerous since Djimmi's eyes will always meet there, which leaves the top or bottom as my 2 options to stay at. While you might think there's no major difference between the two, the bottom of the screen is actually much safer since mummies very rarely spawn low enough to hit us while we hug my new best friend, the bottom of the screen. We can hit Djimmi when he's also near the bottom as long as we know he's not about to attack due to him just doing so. Otherwise, just stay far enough away to dodge. This strategy takes a really long time to get any significant damage in, and isn't consistent enough to actually beat the phase before dying to a tough attack pattern, or odd mummies summoned low enough to hit us. Even the extra damage that carries over from hitting Djimmi between phases, hitting every totem, and the extra 2 hits at the start of the phase isn't enough to make this work. So it's time to channel my inner Cuphead, even if I have to play Mugman, and roll the dice. Instead of disengaging after the first 2 hits, double down and follow Djimmi while mashing Whetstone. Again, as long as you're the right distance away from him, His eyes won't hit you, but a mummy spawning right where you are is basically a guaranteed hit. It's possible to dodge them if you're extremely quick, but sometimes they're hidden behind a Djimmi, so good luck dodging that. On a good attempt, I get here with 3 health, and will almost always lose 1 or 2 if I get through, and that's still an if. It's about a 50-50 on surviving the phase or not, but it's well worth the reward of actually getting to the next one. And pretty quickly at that, as it takes about a minute and 30 seconds for a successful attempt to get through this phase. I've had a couple people ask if secret phases are allowed in this challenge, and I think they're fair game since you still get soul contracts for beating them. That being said, we can't do this one since it requires shrinking to activate. Cuphead's phase is a bit of a weird one. We're obviously going to stick to the right side of the screen to actually do damage, so the biggest threat is to Djimmi's hat chasing the player. Or, well, it would be if it didn't get stuck once we go above Cuphead. This will make things much easier, but eventually it will most likely get unstuck, which will complicate the phase a lot more. Before then, you can continuously attack Cuphead's cup, which has a straight hit/hurt box, contrary to how he slants it when shooting in front of himself like a dummy. The hat will still shoot bullets even when stuck, so sometimes you have to move to avoid them, and carefully reposition yourself to deal damage again. Once the hat frees itself, things get a lot more complicated since every other spot is much more awkward to hit Cuphead, and will have fewer opportunities to do so. You have to be the most cautious when attacking behind or below Cuphead, since once the phase transitions, he'll usually kick you, and even if he doesn't, dodging might make the hat hit you on its way out. Just be mindful of about how many hits you've got in this phase, so you can try to finish it above Cuphead for the most consistent escape. The final phase isn't that bad. It took a little getting used to the delay in the pyramid attack to know exactly which spots were safest and committing to going above or below them to wait out the beams. Other than that, the Djimmi will periodically fire a 3-ringed beam of his own at the player's current location. It's not really a threat if you just move, like, at all. So, the best spot for hitting him is lining up the plane's propeller on the bottom of his teeth. We'll consistently be forced to move in order to avoid his attacks, but we can get a lot of hits between them until... Let's go! You can't defeat me, even without your wishes 3. The Djimmi? More like... the Djimmi? Looks like you'll need to... I wish for more... You should have wished for more wishes, then use those more wishes to wish for my defeat. Thanks for the GGs, everyone! That was only 3 minutes and 41 seconds? Let's go! Second stream! I did not think the Djimmi would be that easy! Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. You don't want to miss Wally, and you even more don't want to miss Grim. I still haven't beaten him.